Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a one sheet wonder. This time I'll be making a slimline card with a piece of 6x6 paper. The design, the slimline one sheet wonder template will make 2 slimline cards from one sheet of 6x6 paper. This template will be available on my blog as a download, so if you check the video description below, you'll be able to print that off. So I'm starting with some reverse confetti supplies because I want to enter this into a reverse confetti challenge. So they have a monthly challenge on their website where they give you a theme and you make a card. This month's theme for November 2021 is holiday, and so I'm going to be making a holiday card with the Yuletide mice and these sweet stripes paper pack, which has these green and red papers that I picked out. The template tells you exactly how to cut all the papers, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But I'm going to make 4 cards by cutting 2 pieces of paper because each piece of paper makes 2. I am cutting them to make 2 rectangles that are 3 inches by 2.5 inches, and then 2 rectangles will be put together to make a long rectangle, one of which is 5 by 1 3/4 and then 1 by 1 3/4. But that 5 by 1 3/4 and the 1 by 1 3/4 are going to be placed together on a 2-inch by 8.25-inch mat. And I'll leave a big gap in between the two. And then I will cover that gap with the smaller rectangle that is for the focal point. So this means that even though I'm only working with a 6x6 paper, it will look like I have this big long piece of 8-inch paper that will work better for a slimline card. I did share this slimline card as part of a 6x6 paper pad tutorial, so you may have seen it before, but I always like to give it its own video in case people don't want to watch those longer 6x6 paper pad tutorials but do still want to see these ideas. So here is my 2-inch by 8.25, because I like to leave a 1/4-inch mat for my cards, although sometimes I will do 1/8 of an inch if that's what the measurements require. And you can see here that I'm putting down that long thin rectangle and then that small little bit at the bottom. So I'm placing them each evenly from the top and the bottom, and then I'll be covering that gap with this other rectangle here. So I will mix it up, and if I use the green paper for the long strip, I'm going to use the red and white sort of candy cane paper for the focal point. Here's my slimline card. I am going to adhere it with my ATG. My ATG is my favorite sort of go-to adhesive, and if you ever have any trouble on your with your ATG gun or ATG glider, I have a video where I share a lot of tips and tricks so that hopefully that will help you to like yours as well. Now I want to make sure everything looks nice and smooth and even, so I put a little bit of cardstock along the right side of that focal image because the rest of it is going to be already sort of popped up by being on top of that candy cane stripe paper, so that little bit of cardstock will help prop it up on the other side. Here are the Yuletide mice from Reverse Confetti, and because they're a clear stamp set, I can kind of hold them all over the different, so I can hold all the different mice over my focal panel and pick which one I think best suits the card. And so I decided to go with the mouse with the presents. And then I'm also taking my favorite banner dies, which I keep in a magnetic flower on my desk so that they're always close at hand. And I'm holding them over the sentiments in the stamp set to see which one will work for the sentiment that I picked out from the stamp set, which is the holiday hello greeting. And once I have that, I am using this template that I've created with my favorite banner dies, and it has painter's tape. That yellow tape you see sticking out is painter's tape, and the sticky side is up, and that means that I will be able to hold the banner in place even though it's a die cut and stamp it multiple times with the MISTI if I need to. If you're more curious about more details about creating one of those for yourself, I do also have a video about that in my time-saving sentiment hacks video. I'm also going to stamp out the mouse on some Nina Solar White 80 pound. This is my favorite for Copic coloring. I have used a lot of other things in the past with some varying degrees of success. However, I had felt that a lot of other papers use a lot of ink. They use a lot of the Copic ink. And so I've switched to a more expensive paper to save my Copic markers, which are also expensive. So it's kind of a balance there, on which makes sense. Here, I wanted to leave this in. I am re-inking my ink pad, and I was like, well, everybody knows about that. Like, if your ink pad gets dry, you should re-ink it. And I was like, wait, I didn't know about that for years after I started crafting, that you could re-ink your ink pads. And now this was many years ago, before the internet was quite what it is today. Now I feel like people are probably more aware of those kind of things, but I was like, you know what, I'll leave it in. And just in case there's somebody who's thinking like, oh, my stamping's gotten bad all of a sudden, maybe you just need to refresh your ink pad. And for even those of you who know that, hopefully it's a good reminder that, that might be the problem. And it's not just that you need to stamp it 5 times with your MISTI. It may just need a little bit of a ink refresher. Let me know what your, I wish I knew that sooner as a crafter is in the comments below. Because I think we all have those things where we've been crafting for a while and then we're like, oh my gosh, I never realized that. How did nobody tell me before? So share those so all the new crafters can go through the comments and find them out hopefully sooner than you did. I'm going to be Copic coloring my mouse here. As you can see, I colored a few of them first to make sure that I like the colors. This new camera and this autofocus is not working very well for my coloring, so it is certainly something I need to figure out, and I apologize for the fact that it is zooming in and out, deciding what to look at, and hopefully I can fix that going forward. But I'm going to do some simple grays for the mouse because I don't want to add any extra colors. I want to keep it to just red and green. So by coloring him a neutral gray, that works out well. And I colored him with the C3, C1, C0 combination, just adding a little bit of shadow on the top left and bottom right so that he looks like he has a bit of dimension to his face there. It was kind of hard for me to pick where I should put the shadows with all of this. It doesn't matter because this is not a scene. There is no definitive light source. However, after coloring a few of them, I kind of just generally put the shadows on the right side of all of the packages. And I don't even know if that makes sense. I just know that your coloring looks better if there's shadows in it. And so I added some shadows, and, being consistent with your shadows across the image is generally a good bet. It's not necessarily always the most accurate, but again, there's no light source, so it'll be less obvious that it's wrong since there's no background coloring to accompany it. I'm using our 393735 for my reds. The reds, as you probably know if you've picked up a red marker, a red Copic marker, they are notoriously tricky. They can be a little bit difficult to blend, but more importantly, if you get them in a place you don't want them, they're really hard to move. They stick onto that paper, and colorless blender does not move them very well. So I always find I have to be really careful with my red blending. But another thing I like to share about the reds is I do think going for a nice deep shadow with the reds can be really rewarding, even though it's super scary, because again, they don't move if you make a mistake. So if you splotch a bit of red where you don't want it, you might be pretty sad, but those deep red shadows really add a lot of depth and dimension. And I'm doing YG 6763 and 43. I usually might go for the really easy, obvious combination of 6-1, but I wanted it to be a bit of a brighter green. So I went out of the YGs and into the traditional G markers, which tend to be brighter. I didn't want it to be super, super bright, or I would have been just Gs. The YGs are a little bit more muted and natural colors. If I'm going to color something that was in nature, like leaves or something, I definitely go with the YGs. And I did make sure to go back and add some extra shadows into the folds of the bow, and that really helped it to pop. Finally, I am ready to assemble all those last little pieces onto my card. I'm going to pop up my image with just a scrap of, it's like a scrap of cardboard essentially. It's something you get like in random packaging, but you could just take 2 layers of cardstock. You could take foam tape, whatever you like to get your images popped up. But I like to use trash so that it's, you know, I mean, you could put those things in the recycling, but why am I going to pay for foam tape? You know that about me. I'll always say that. So that's why I'm gluing random bits on the back there. And then that is it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment or share this video. If you'd like to see more videos about how to use your supplies such as One Sheet Wonder tutorials, please subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. I will link all the products I can in the video description and link you to my website where you can download any templates and get more information. For even more inspiration, come find me on Instagram or check out these 2 videos here at the end. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.